Just this chair here? Yeah. Is that okay? Am I looking at the camera that over there? All right, I can do that. My name is Mr. Meldon. I'm sorry. Can we take a break? I need some air.
There is no greater way to gain understanding into a society than to look into their educational system. Throughout this series, we will follow different teachers and discover how their differing styles impact the learning of the students.
I think that the best way to teach students is to take a more humanistic approach rather than the traditional fundamentalistic way of learning. Because, in case you don't know, fundamentalistic education is all about rote and repetition and really just cramming all that info into the heads of the students. And that's the strategy that's been in use for years. And it does work in some circumstances with some students, but every student is different. And that kind of rote learning doesn't really work for everyone. Humanistic learning is about putting the student first, which actually it does relate to the first Australian professional standard for teachers, which is know students and how they learn. Because whether it's a personality difference or a cultural difference or a sexuality difference or a neurodiversity difference, my goal is to ensure that all of my students are enjoying the benefits that should come from my education. I think that my educational philosophy was informed by two actually quite famous educational philosophers who are John Dewey and Paulo Freire. Well, the philosophy presented by John Dewey clearly indicates that, and it's a quote here, it is the business of an intelligent theory of education to ascertain the causes for the conflict that exists, and then, instead of taking one side or the other, to indicate a plan of operations proceeding from a level deeper and more inclusive. This type of thinking allows me to minimize the amount of intra-student conflict, because if the people that you're trying to teach are too busy yelling or brawling with one another, then they're not really learning, are they? Well, these conflicts could arise because of a simple frustration, but the sad reality is that they could also come about because of bigotry. And as teachers, it's our job to make it very clear that discrimination of any kind will not be tolerated in our classrooms. But disgracing the idea of discrimination, it quite frankly, it isn't enough. We need to celebrate the differences of our students by utilizing a variety of what's referred to as transformative texts in our teachings. Texts that challenge societal norms and highlight the beauty that can only exist if everyone accepts one another as their true self. Paulo Freire states that education is often viewed as a banking system. Here, look at this. The banking system means that the teacher holds the education here and then deposits it into the minds of the students. It means that the gift of knowledge is bestowed by those who consider themselves knowledgeable onto those who they consider to know nothing. This is not a good or positive mindset to hold when concerning teaching, as Paulo Freire states. He says that the teacher and the student, they grow together. Now, generally speaking, the main goal in schools is for students to graduate with high marks and to succeed academically, but this mindset, it's sort of outdated. My educational philosophy is that it's more important for a student to improve rather than to succeed. Going from a D to a C is way more important to me than getting an A. And if I can learn how to help someone go from a D to a C, then I am succeeding in my role as educator.
So there we have it. Tonight, we've followed Mr. Meldon as he's explored the humanistic approach to learning. But questions still linger in our minds. How far can this holistic approach take students Is the fundamentalistic method truly outdated, as Mr. Meldon stated? And will the video quality of this show ever improve? Find out next week, Monday, 7 p.m., on the next episode of Netflix's hit new series, Education and Society.